Hey, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Adana. I'm an author, illustrator, and world builder. And today I thought I'd do something fun. I'm going to start plotting this week in preparation for writing, starting on the 1st, for my challenge, Tarvelber, as well as Kate Kavanaugh's challenge, the 100K in Q4, as well as Sarah from Heartbreeding's challenge, which is the rough draft challenge. I'm going to be doing a lot of challenges this winter. Besides the point, I'm going to be doing a lot of writing this winter, and my goal is to write 100,000 words in my fantasy novel. Side note, I'm going to be plotting a different novel than the one I talked about in the last video. I do like that idea a lot. However, I've decided in the past 2 days that I am just gonna go with what I know. And what I know is tarot and murder hobos. So that's what we're doing. If you follow me on Threads, you probably saw my character art that I did last night because I could not help myself. And I already have her backstory. I already have her personality. So now I want to plot her story. Probably going to be just the beginning of her story, but it's going to be her story nonetheless. So I wanted to not only share my process with you in terms of how I outline a story, I also wanted to refresh myself because it's been a while. So fair warning, while there are plotters and pantsers in the writing community, I fall in the plotter category, but I'm pretty sure no one does this much but me. Let's go. So this is what most of my full process looks like. There's actually some stuff that I can't really get into because it would make it too small to see because I plot all the way down to the beat level. However, I do it in stages. I'm not that insane. So the first stage, of course, is the acts. I break the story up from, the 1 sentence pitch to the 4 acts, 1 sentence per act, or, however much I want to do in that particular moment. In Act 1, we're setting up the story. Act 2, the protagonist is reacting. Act 3, they start to be more proactive. And then in Act 4, we resolve the story, So then, after that, I move into the story circle. Now, there are plenty of videos on Dan Harmon's story circle. It's basically a simplified version of a hero's journey. It is what it is. I tend to tell myself that I'm using the fool's journey, which is what I'm actually going to be doing in this story. But it actually matches up really well. I won't go into the story circle. If you know, you know. If you don't know, there's plenty of videos on it. Moving on. So then we go to plot points. So I based this on Dan Wells' 7-point plot structure. However, the fact that the hook was with the resolution, but there is no climax, bugs me. He uses hook as if it's the inciting incident, whereas the resolution was just the resolution of the story, and I don't like that. So I made it 9 plot points. Plus 9 is my favorite number, so it works for me. So you have the hook, which is, I guess, in Save the Cat terms, the opening image. It's the, the thing that gets you into the story. You know what a hook is. Then we have catalyst, plot turn 1, pinch 1, midpoint, pinch 2, plot turn 2. And then climax, and then resolution. So I go through, once I have my story circle, I use that to figure out what my main plot points are going to be, and if I want to tweak some things, if I wanted to have certain scenes that I see in my head, things like that, possibly do that here. If not, I'll just move on to the next level, and the next level is sequences. Now, in Hollywood, they use an 8-sequence structure. That's cool, I dig it. But one of my favorite authors is Leigh Bardugo. And after reading her books, I went on a search to find out how she outlined. And on her website, she mentioned that she broke her story up into 12 sequences. I've never heard her or read about her saying anything about it again. She just says that she uses the 4-act structure in other interviews. But I really like the idea of the 12 sequences because it breaks each act up into smaller chunks. And that's all I'm doing at this, when I'm outlining is just breaking the story down into progressively smaller chunks. I also like 12 sequence structure because it works well with another plotting paradigm that I like using. I originally heard about it from a YouTube channel called Anatomy of Chaos. I don't think the YouTube channel is still active. However, I still use the plot points. And there are 24 in his method. So with my 12 sequences, I have 2 plot points per sequence. Now, this is where things get fun, because in my sequences, I also break those up by using the story circle as well as the 24 plot points. So I essentially start out with 96 scenes for a book. Now I might add scenes or remove scenes later, as needed, but that's my base, is 96 scenes. I not only break the sequences up using story circle, but when it comes to the overall story, I also use a method of plotting or planning scenes that I got from this book. Can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's in my Kindle. Now, this is a lot. I know it's a lot. This is only for the main plot. I also do kind of an abridged version of this for the subplots that I then weave into the main story. So, yeah. So in my sequences, I have 8 scenes for each sequence. Whether I need to shorten it or lengthen it, depends on what's going on in the sequence. But that's how we do it. So then after that is ring composition. Now, if you watched I think it was my writing goals video, where I talked about ring composition and literary alchemy, which we'll get into in a second. With ring composition, it's a matter of finding elements that are important in the story and then using those elements in both halves. So element A may be somewhere in the first 2 to 3 scenes or something like that. I'll then take element A and put it in somewhere in the last 2 to 3 scenes, but either reverse or contradict or, do something to have that element being used or expressed in a different way. So say in element A, in the beginning, it's a tree. I don't know. Maybe, when we first see this special tree, it's dead. Or maybe it's alive. It's, it's live. It's flowering. It's pretty. And then when we see that same tree later on at the end of the story, then it's dead. Or somebody's picking at fruit off the tree. Or, I don't know, lightning strikes the tree. Whatever. Something that happens, usually some kind of reversal. And with ring composition, it's a way to show the change in the story as a whole, but also as, a progressive movement towards the middle where the most important element is. So somewhere in the midpoint is the most important element that most strongly conveys the theme of the ring. But then the ends of the ring also mirror the middle. It's a whole thing. I might do another video on ring composition, because I just find it so fascinating, but it's a whole thing. And along with ring composition, the other thing that I like to look at is literary alchemy. Again, I talked about it in my writing goals video. Somewhere. There's a link somewhere. With literary alchemy, it's more of an internal thing, because it's more about philosophical change in the character or characters. It could also be a change in the world. Each stage, there's a specific phase of the process that's happening. So I would want to have the character going through events that are creating that kind of change in her. It made sense when I said it in my head. You know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, feel free to ask me in the comments. Ask me all the questions. I love questions. I love talking about story structure. It's so fun for me. So that's my full process. Now, I am not a psychopath. I do not try to do this all at once. Most of the time. What I actually do is I will take this entire process and I will break it up in phases. So before I start drafting, which means for the rest of this week until the 31st, I will be breaking the story down into acts and then the story circle and then getting my plot points. And these are the things that I know I need to hit as I'm drafting. Then during the drafting phase, I will do my sequences, but I will outline one sequence at a time. So I'll outline an entire sequence and then write that entire sequence, and then outline the next sequence, write that entire sequence. And that's where I will break up the sequences into story circle and then have my 8 scenes. And then I'll take my 8 scenes and break those up using the story circle, and I'll have my major beats for each scene. and then that's how I write. And I'll take a day and do the sequence outline, and then when I sit down to write, I will break down each scene and then write it out, and then, you know, go from there. And I usually write about 4,000 words a day, either 4,000 words or 4 scenes. Usually, I mean, my scenes are usually like the 1,500 to 2,000 words each, so something like that. So that's like almost 8,000 words a day. Whatever. Math. I don't want to. Now, this part is going to be fun because I don't like revisions. But the revision stage is where I'll be working on the ring composition and literary alchemy so that I can decide what what the important elements are that I need to repeat, and decide how I'm going to further enhance each phase of the literary alchemy process, or the alchemical process. Yeah. So that's the plan. That's my writing process. I mean, it makes sense in my head. I'm not sure how helpful this will be to anyone else. It works for me. And it's I don't know what to tell you. I'm weird. For the rest of this week, I will be working on the first 3 levels of this plan for my murder hobo. Her name is Zebra. If you have any questions, again, leave them down in the comments. I will answer them as best as I can, as quickly as I can. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, well, go ahead and drop a like. Maybe subscribe if you're into this kind of thing. If you want to see more of my writing and world building shenanigans. If you have any concerns, or if you want to share your writing process, how do you outline? Let me know. I'm nosy. All right. Until next time.